Well, I'm Dr. George Litman. I'm chair of the Department of Internal Medicine at Northeast Ohio Medical University. I was a cardiologist for many years before that role, and still do some cardiology, but not the intense practice that I did for years ago. What I would say to students is this: be open-minded. You know, go into your third year with a great open mind. Don't say, gee, I'm going to be an ophthalmologist. How would you even know? I mean, and I love ophthalmology, but could I spend my whole career looking at eyeballs? I don't know about that, but the point of fact is that I think you need to have an open mind, and I think you need to find somebody that you really connect with. And you can do that in medical school, and you can do that in residency, but that one person, if the relationship is the right one, will influence your career, and I think will influence it in a good way. And the best thing I can say is be open-minded, look for that person that you really respect and idolize, and try to connect with them to help your career. You know, it's really funny. About what can you tell yourself as a medical student? And when I go back in my own career, I don't think there's anything I could have told myself in medical school, because I was, number one, geared to be a doctor. I loved it. The thought of being a doctor was, I mean, I was just thrilled to get into medical school. I mean, when I went to medical school, just as it is now, it was very, very competitive, and there were much fewer medical schools. And I mean, but they put a lot of emphasis back then on your career in college. Did you get really great grades? And the emphasis wasn't as much on MCATs as it seems to be right now. But it was, how did you perform, rather than how did you do one day walking in and taking a test. So for me, as soon as I started medical school, I knew I was the happiest person in the world. And it was brutal. And I've told students now, and they look at me like I'm just crazy. But medical school was my entire life. I had no outside life. And I know that sounds weird, but I would tell you, when we were in medical school, it was 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, 5 days a week, and it was 8 to 1 on Saturdays. And when you went home or to your apartment, you ate and then you studied. And I did that for 2 years. My first 2 years of medical school were like that. There were no breaks. The only breaks were in the summer. And in the summer, I had a lot of fun. So I will tell you, I made up for and it was good to have the summer. So what I'd like to tell our students, and what I'd like to emphasize, is that medical school is your whole life. And why do I say that? Because what you learn in medical school is the basis of what you're going to have to use to take care of people. And their patients and their lives are at stake, and you have to be serious about your experience. And so my advice to you is, if you're in medical school, number one, you should love being in medical school. Number two, you can complain, because we all complain, and it's hard and it's tough. But what you learn those first 2 years, are the basic foundations. I just wrote a little chapter about this, and whether it'll be published or not, I don't know. But I look at the first 2 years as just the beginning of the foundation, or the basement of your house. And the next 2 years, maybe you're putting a floor in the basement. So when you get out of medical school, you've got a basic foundation of information. And then your residency is maybe the first year or two, and maybe you get the first floor done. But it isn't until you finish completely that the house is done. And so the basement is the foundation of the house, and if the basement isn't good, the rest of the house is going to fall apart. So that's my advice to medical students. And it disturbs me to no end to see that people are not taking the first 2 years seriously enough, and all they think about is getting into the clinical phase. But you know, you gotta know pathology. You can't know. I mean, I've put this over and over again. If you don't know the pathologic basis of disease, you can't be a good doctor. And if, you know, I've said this over and over again, but I read Robin's textbook of pathology 5 times when I was in medical school. 5 times. Through cover to cover. And so anyone who looks at me and says, oh, you can't do that, I say, baloney. If you're committed, you find the time to do it.